Fantastic. Well, I'm a woman in business, so I've been
blame
doing the same thing.
you want to blame anyone for Israel and Palestine,
Oh
start
my
there.
God. We're not gonna
Oh,
we're
we
not
have
Let's
gonna
make it
talk
plenty
about
really
of
that
plenty of
right
other
now.
spicy.
shit to be blamed for as well. But come on, come on.
All right. Okay. I think we're actually, in fact,
Okay.
live.
Okay.
Whoops.
Oh,
Hold
hi.
on.
Hi everyone. Sorry, don't record that and do not make any hiring decisions based on what you just heard me say. Thanks. Don't do not
It's no problem.
judge based on the ill-advised comments I just made in confidence.
It's Agreed. Totally fine. Not a problem. So, welcome everybody to the Health Tech Talk Show. I really thought, Matthew, that I put our names on here this time, but it didn't work again. So, I'm Kat McDavitt. This is Lisa
I'm
Berry. We
Lisa
are here today.
Berry. Hi.
Oh my God. Oh my God. All right. So, we've got like a great lineup today. I'm kind of coming in hot. Haven't really been paying attention all week. So, Lisa's going to lead our discussion on news. And then we have two very special guests. As Lisa said earlier, this is like a diversity play today because we have two white men who are going to be on our show as our guests. It's like, what is even happening? One is British, so I think it's
Boo.
fine. We have Otto Sipes. Am I saying that name right? We'll figure it out later. Otto from Photon Health, the Photon guy, is here, and then we have Matthew Holt of many ventures. I don't actually really know what all the ventures are. Yeah, the healthcare blog, Smack Health. Is that even a thing? We'll find out. We're going to find out.
We'll find out.
We're going to find out.
So
That's still a thing.
I have some news that should be news, Kat, that I am mad about. I updated my knowledge, my very minimal knowledge about it last week at some point. What is the status of the Equal Rights Amendment? Kat, do you know? An amendment to the U.S. Constitution. What is the status of the Equal Rights Amendment? What do you know about it? Let's just do what do you know? What do you know?
I know there are some states that just aren't into it.
Fired.
But there are 38 who have signed on.
38.
And 38. So that means 12 of our great states, God bless the states, are not interested in the Equal Rights Amendment. I think you actually told me that 38 means that it should be an actual federal thing, and that's not a thing.
Yeah, the peanut gallery is actually wrong here because the government can decide to do whatever the hell it wants to do. There was a timeline, it expired, that other ones sort of ratified it, other states ratified the amendment. There's actually enough. 38 is enough to change the U.S. Constitution, but they being the U.S. Congress, have to actually pass this proposal to extend the timeline. And it has passed the House and not the Senate. And now that Congress is a pile of rubble. No offense to friends in Congress. We may never see that happen, but we are so close. The Equal Rights Amendment could become the reality very soon.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, I don't know, Lisa. We're gonna have to see because our Speaker of the House just believes that I should be a baby making machine. It's my duty to America to pop out more children. So, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. But anyway, we should probably move on because again, this is our diversity show. We have our two men coming on. What else? What else? We had some companies went out of business this week. What even happened?
Yeah,
the AI. All kinds of things happened this week.
The AI executive order, the provider information blocking rule proposal, and then the QAnons aren't real crowd just decided to put a little lob something over the corner. I have to say, I think that they were actually putting that blog out in order to time with the Health Tech Talk Show. I think they did it because they knew we were about to go live and then we would talk about their little blog post about the next version of the TEFCA Common Agreement going live and saying that they were going to do TEFCON Fire. So you're welcome, ONC folks.
TEFCON Fire.
There's your little plug. TEFCON Fire. Burn it up.
Yeah, TEFCON Fire. So, I feel like it is super hot. It is super hot right now. I'm into it. Everybody knows I am super into regulations. I love being regulated. It's my favorite thing.
No, you aren't. No, you don't. Yeah. She is not being sincere. She is not being sincere. Everyone.
No, I don't like being regulated. God bless the free markets. But that's actually, we can't do that segue yet because we still have to banter a little bit about the information blocking rule, which is my favorite rule. But I do want to talk about eventually how regulation can sometimes inadvertently create massive monopolies like scribing. But we could talk about that in a few minutes. No big deal. No big deal at all.
Yes.
We can
Yes. Well, so provider information blocking. This is where we actually disagree a lot. We disagree really significantly on this one topic. You say like the threat of a regulation is enough to move the free market. Notice my air quotes here, free market.
God bless the free market.
I say it's not. I say it's not. So that's where we disagree on the information blocking stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So here's my perspective on that. Like, I kind of agree. So Lisa and I actually agree on a fuck ton of things. So that's actually not that unusual. but so the information blocking rule is my favorite rule. And my perspective is like, I do like, and even when the original proposed rule came out, I was doing like back end data acquisition, right? So provider to provider, more often provider to payer or provider to state, right? Well, and state is the payer, but so for me, like a lot of companies immediately redid their data sharing strategies, right? And they were like, okay, like how do we not get sued here? The thought at the time, and I think this thought still is that if you are caught data blocking, like it's going to be resolved through litigation, and like nobody really wants that, especially when a lot of these companies like would rather be spending their money elsewhere. So for me, we all like changed our strategies in the on that side of things. I think where I don't play as much, and this is one of the reasons I actually don't hit TEFCA that much, as you know, Lisa, is patients don't really listen. Shut up.
Okay. That's a good reason.
Patients don't have access to their data. Like, there's no good way to get access to your data, especially if like you've moved around. So TEFCA could be great, but on the information blocking side, so this week was the provider disincentive rule, proposed rule, and like you said, Lisa, it is kind of a nothing burger. Like, but I think
no offense to my friends, but you could have put some teeth in there. I get it. They're like, we don't know if we have the authority. We have to ask somebody to tell us if we have the authority. I understand. Like, I'm sympathetic to your friends, but also like you could have done a little bit more. It's not. Okay, it's asymmetric, right? It's asymmetric.
Yeah. I mean, it might not be that good. I don't know. But here's the other reason. Okay. So like it could have been better, but like maybe it'll get better one day, right? Like maybe it'll get better one day. And I do think like it's important that patients have access to their stuff or whatever. And providers can be not super compliant there. So that's a thing. The other reason I love the information blocking rule, which I think some people call the information sharing rule, which like I'm just not into. Like, let's just like, why build the edge?
Sorry, Mickey invented that. Mickey was like talking about it on stage, and I could see his thought process. He was like, I don't like that word. We'll call it the information sharing rule. Good job, Mickey.
Yeah.
Just renamed it.
Yeah. I mean, I like haven't yet adopted that type of thing. But so this is why I love it, because the loopholes, the 8 exceptions, it's 8, right? To the information blocking rule, they are so big. You could drive like 6 buses through each of them. Like you could be like, this request will cause harm. Boom. Boom. You don't like someone? Harm.
No.
Security risk? What? Yeah. So there's all, I don't know. I mean, like that also can be used in a bad way, right? But I think there also are like really shitty players out there, right? And you want to like, is it on you to validate that information request is valid and that they do have a TPO relationship with the patient? What is a TPO relationship? Who even actually knows, right? We could go into that. I mean, this is a long conversation. We need to have it. But so I do disagree a little bit. I think it's better than nothing.
To any skeptics who are listening, of which I hope you are all skeptics, please all be skeptics. This is what we call regulatory capture. And look at all those exceptions. There are a lot of them, and they are helpful if you are a business who is trying to make money. I support you. In theory, Kat really supports you. God bless the free markets, as she would say.
God bless the free markets.
Is this where I make a Bill Gurley joke?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, we'll bring Otto on early here. Yeah, you should make your joke.
Disembodied voice. First.
No, that is the joke. Okay, Bill Gurley. I actually have like a broader comment because I really don't play on the interoperability strictly side of things. But didn't the ONC get us into this mess? And are we now in a place where we're expecting the ONC to dig us out?
Look at the spicy comments. Yes, yes, and yes. Yes, and yes.
By the way, this is Otto. Everyone, this is Otto, the photon guy. We're going to figure out what he does in a minute here. Okay, you guys, can we also just say, wait, should we just bring Matthew on? We should just bring Matthew on here too. Hold on, let's just bring him on here.
Yeah,
it's going to get chaotic.
I feel like he might have something. Okay, so you guys, can we just say, okay, back to TEFCA and regulatory stuff. Regulatory capture, Lisa, love that word. I love the pursuit of the almighty dollar in almost any form. So
it's not a
compliment. Can we just talk about
regulatory capture? Is not a compliment.
I know. But can we just admire Epic's TEFCA strategy?
Oh my god! My god!
Objectively, it is amazing. Like I'm not saying for the greater good, it's amazing, but like from like a strategic, like taking down the market, creating a moat so big, just gifted to you,
like a literal moat, though. Like I'm sure, like I assume that they have a real moat at their like headquarters, because that seems like it would be Judy's style, is to have like an actual moat with like a castle and like goblins and like a bridge. Like I feel like she would do that.
She's never invited me, so I don't actually know.
But isn't the government, someone in the government who's got credentials has got to be looking at this thing saying, the last time we got the ONC involved, we picked winners and created, fiefdoms among Epic and, but like they're doing the same thing again. They're picking the few people that can play in the space and the few that can't. And like, do we expect different results the second time around?
So the first thing, Otto, is that the law was written in 2015. Secondarily, you're totally right. Like yes. And also the people who made the decision, this was like almost a decade ago, right? It's almost 2024, right? So like, yes. And also the delay is serious, right? So yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm glad you said it. I can be like, yeah, that's what Otto said, not me, but
yeah, Otto said it. We have not insulted our great regulators on this talk show. Also, our friend Scott Stewie, he says correctly, most of the information blocking allegations are by patients and are against provider organizations, not vendors, and that is true. So yeah, maybe Lisa's a little right, but maybe maybe this will help. Maybe it'll help.
Maybe I'm a lot right. I think I'm a lot right.
Okay. Does anyone here know anything about the AI executive order? Because I didn't actually read. And like Alia tagged me in the thing. It was short, and I didn't even read it. I didn't even read it.
Yes, I do. It is also a perfect example of regulatory capture by the industry. It is, first of all, as you might know, if you go back to your like how a bill becomes a law or whatever, like you can't regulate truly by executive order.
Schoolhouse Rock? Hell yeah.
Yeah, Schoolhouse Rock, man. That is not. You can't do that. And yet, like, the administrations have been having to do that because they don't have the ability to get things done in Congress. Like, you can't, that's not a regulation. It's like the government, it's like the president saying, I'm going to tell the agencies what I want them to do with AI and hope that moves the entire market. That's all it is, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, I also just think sort of same thing there. Like when a big company is lobbying the government, I feel like the government should by nature question that in terms of regulation. Like every time a big company
totally into this free market guy.
Well, yeah, I'm no I'm no blue-blooded like libertarian over here, but I do think if you look at history repeats itself kind of stuff. When Facebook and Google are both asking for regulations, I don't know. I would question that. To borrow from our friend Bill Gurley over here, I definitely think it does. It hurts the small players, and that doesn't feel terribly American.
So when AI has killed everybody, we can say the problem was there was too much regulation, or was that we forgot to
regulate at the start? Totally. But we can say both. Ideally, we can say both, Matt. It's like
did you see the stat that 40% of people working in AI think that AI is going to kill everybody?
What? Yeah, Who said that? Who said that?
I will go and find it because I'm not even on my segment, but I'm going to come back with.
Was it like a bunch of people on Twitter, or was it real?
No, it was an actual survey. I'm going to go find it. I didn't know I was going to talk about it.
Okay, I'm ready. Okay. Well, here we are. Well, we never know what we're going to talk about in the Health Tech Talk Show.
To be fair, I went to NVIDIA this week and they showed me all their cool new stuff, and there are things you can do with the representation of people where it was, I'm actually an AI version of myself that was created in NVIDIA earlier this week. I'm not real anymore.
Perfect.
Is that how we got you on the show? Is that how we got you here? You were like, I'll just send AI Matthew, no problem.
I wish I could.
All right. Okay, whatever. You look at that, and then we're gonna introduce Otto here correctly. So this is a really weird picture taken at Otto and the Photon Guys award-winning party at Health. This is actually Matthew Holt, who strongly supports the Photon Guys, I believe. And then we saw this tweet from the famous Christina Farr, aka at Chrissy Farr, about how the Photon Guys might actually be like a real thing, and we were like, they should come on our show. So you see here that she says, if you prescribe Photon Health is a great intermediary step. So now we actually have Otto here, which is very exciting. He's going to tell us what Photon Health even is, talking about monopolies, talking about all the things. He's going to talk about the things. Lisa's going to interview him in a very aggressive interview. Otto, tell us some things.
Amazing. Sorry for coming off mute earlier to comment on my favorite topic, the ONC. Seems like all health tech innovators don't love the ONC.
I love my great regulators.
Yeah, I'm going to call my senator after this. I don't know about you guys.
That's perfect.
I guess this is where I'm supposed to say who I am. Otto from Photon.
Hi.
Photon is a lifestyle brand that also runs a small e-prescribing network.
First of all, am also a lifestyle brand, so I appreciate that.
Photon got started about 2 years ago, a small startup based here in Brooklyn. The core idea was that prescribing is kind of stuck in 2008 when it was regulated. Everyone's been to a pharmacy in their life, and you've sort of had the experience of waiting in line at CVS. You get to the counter, you don't know what something costs, you don't know if it's in stock. Your insurance isn't accepted, whatever it is. Everyone sort of dealt with this. And we think fundamentally the prescribing network could actually fix a lot of these issues if there was more intelligence built into it. So that's a lot of how we're sort of approaching this problem. More practically, there's a lot of digital health companies that are trying to build on top of legacy infrastructure. And, without singling out any players, there's just a lot of like old ways of doing things that are quite difficult to work with in 2023. So, as an engineer by trade, I've integrated a couple of these e-prescribing solutions. And, we feel that Photon is just a lot faster for digital health companies to work with. So we're able to get customers set up in a day versus, 6 months with a bunch of contracting. So that's the gist.
What's the strategy for establishing your network?
So, I think the network is a little bit of a literal thing in the previous generation where like it was just, number of pharmacies connected to a number of EHRs. I think we think of it a little bit more like a marketplace than strictly a network. We are super happy to play Amtrak and like rent other people's railroad here. This isn't strictly about necessarily building our own network entirely. You would be, probably not surprised to hear that some of the legacy incumbents have not been terribly easy to work with for us either. But we do want to get to a point where, we can play nicely with the other prescription networks that are out there, because our core product isn't just railroads necessarily. Like there's definitely a lot of networks we've developed directly with partner pharmacies, but we really think the problem we're solving is much more of a product problem where we're helping, patients and providers through this, experience of getting a prescription.
Yeah, I would give you money for that. That totally makes sense. Amtrak, maybe not because they have some other problems, but I think that is a real issue. I love Amtrak. I love trains. I wish there were more of them. Sadly, Amtrak is suffering because they're on those railroads of like other crappy, like not fit for purpose companies. So I guess that's the other question. Is that going to slow you down in creating a better product experience now or eventually?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of decisions we made in terms of like network building where we're taking operational solves to make the product work the way that the patient expects.
Right.
And under the hood, there's a lot of like phone call automation built into Photon, so that a patient gets a text that says, "Hey, your prescription's ready." So for folks listening on the stream, you can go to our site, photon.health, punch in your phone number, and actually receive a demo prescription. I won't try to do a screen share demo right now, but basically you get a text link. You can pick your own pharmacy, and we help the patient through the whole process of fulfillment. So understanding if it's in stock, when it's ready, et cetera, et cetera. So
are you going to spam me if I do that? Will you be spamming me? Are you going to spam me personally if I do that?
Yeah, I mean, look,
my phone number starts with 415.
San Francisco. I mean, yeah, obviously we take the patient trust piece of this really carefully, really seriously. We're texting patients prescriptions. Usually when someone gets a prescription, it's like a pretty serious life event. Like we do a lot of pediatrics, and every single one of these scripts is going to a parent who is caring for a sick kid. So, that's what makes it very hard to build in this space, because the margin for error is really, really low. But we also just see like wild engagement. Patients, they text us back. They text automated messages to say, thank you. Thanks for helping me find a pharmacy that was open. Thanks for helping me reroute this prescription in the middle of the night. And that's pretty cool. That's given us a lot of fuel to our fire. So especially seeing people like Chrissy, shout out Chrissy, who used Photon, didn't even know they were using Photon because they used it through a customer of ours, Summer Health, to receive a prescription. It's just cool to see how we're able to add value as a partner.
Yeah, I think that's great. I feel like you're like everything in healthcare, like you're building on, it's like all of the airline booking systems are built on like the same like nightmare, like mainframe from like 1964 that, like barely operates. And it's like, it was doing well for a while, and then it just like got beyond what its capacity was, to some extent. Like I imagine you're dealing with a lot of that with the underlying infrastructure in the pharmacy system. Can you talk about like how much you can do while stitching together like other people's old trash? Oh, ouch. Got a little reverb there.
It's fine.
This is a budget. As we say, this is a budget operation. Okay,
it's a budget operation.
We're not experts.
Yeah. BYOB. Yep.
I can take the question there. I went on the BYO microphone thing today. I borrowed a microphone from my colleagues, so hopefully the audio is really crispy.
Totally.
Look, I think if you approach this problem as just like a pure technical problem, you're going to end up in the same place in a few years. Like we approach this as a product problem, which is that the experience in this space is so bad. I do think a lot of healthcare is working backward from a tech problem or like a standard or like a QHIN or whatever the fuck that is. Oh, am I allowed to curse on this show? Sorry.
Yes, you absolutely allowed to curse here. Absolutely.
I just feel like so many people think backwards from the standards or the tech or the constraints versus like, what is the ideal experience? Technology is designed to build the ideal experience. Like imagine if Uber was designed around how the taxi placards worked or whatever. I don't know a lot about Uber, but there's a lot of examples in industry where folks said, nope, the old stuff doesn't work. Trying something new. We'll see how it goes. And obviously, a lot of these players that do this bear like a pretty expensive cold start problem. But that's where we're at.
I like that. That's some optimism right there. That's why you're a lifestyle brand.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So like this is kind of like a tricky space, right? There are a lot of competitors that maybe aren't doing exactly what you're doing, but are oxygen competitors, right? They're just going to like walk in and say, no, we do that, or we will do that, or whatever. So like, what? Tell me about like, I'm into the risk taking situation you guys are in. Obviously, you're making a lot of progress. You've gotten some good props, but like, why? Why'd you do this?
Oh, yeah. There's a funny thing that happens as a founder where you see your logo on one of those like cross-hatched like maps.
The 2x2? I love a good 2x2. Oh my God. You want to be in that one.
Yeah. I don't know where we were, but I recently saw Photon in one of those. And obviously investors slide everyone's decks all over the place. But I was like, okay, cool. We've really made it. If like we're out there in someone else's slide deck when they go pitch. But yeah, to answer the question, why? I think, well, there's a couple things. Like for me personally, and then I'll kind of talk about the group, both as co-founders and the whole team. But for me personally, there was sort of this moment kind of a shower thought thing where I was like, if I don't do this, like no one will do this, because I'm in so deep on this thing and so deep at like the, understanding of the nuts and bolts that make prescribing work, that if I don't do this, it's sort of like a disservice to, our nation kind of feeling. And like, obviously that's what gets a lot of founders.
God bless America.
Do something that is stupidly complicated. But yeah, like you hear from a lot of founders, if I knew how hard this would have been now, like you probably wouldn't do it. So there's a lot of naivete of just like, man, wouldn't it be cool if a patient could just get a prescription via text and pick their own pharmacy? And yeah, obviously that sounds naive, but we're doing that at scale now, and starting to kind of figure out what happens next.
Nice. What's like super cool about what you guys are doing is, Lisa and I, well, we actually don't disagree on this, but we still yell about it a lot, is that patients are not consumers. So what I think is interesting about you and the success you've had is that you're taking the patient experience. So maybe not saying they're consumers, but you're saying the patient experience is so important that's how you're going to win. Like that's, and like sounds like it's like kind of working. What?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're, so this is where I'll talk about my co-founders. Like, the thing I was going to say toward the last comment, definitely not alone in this fight. We've got a killer team, and I'm blessed with some like killer co-founders that have worked on various pieces of digital health and consumer tech. And the thing about consumer tech that's almost special is just, you can just obsess over making the customer happy. And that's generally a good business. And generally you do this with product. You do this with like, checkout experiences or whatever. That's why we have so many great products in our lives, like TVs or whatever. In healthcare, there's no incentive to do that. But I do feel like that approach does actually work well in terms of distribution. And that's what our focus is. Like we're building a, like a killer patient experience. I shouldn't say killer patient experience. That sounds bad. We're building a really good patient experience, not because
really
it's like
amazing
gonna get a patient to convert or something. It's really about increasing the quality of care. I think we're connecting the dots between some of the D2C, Gen 1 D2C DNA of like, we can get more patients to convert for some lifestyle medication, convert that up to what if you can get patients to convert for the medications that, keep them out of the hospital. There are very few people that are actually pulling the tech from that into the other side of healthcare, which is trying to solve the more complex problems. So it's like patient experience, but
that's
not
a really interesting one. Yeah. Like, what's your motivation for patient experience? But that's kind of what you're asking, though. You're right. Like, so in the things that are like lifestyle or like coded as lifestyle, which is also kind of insulting in medicine, but whatever. Like there is maybe more of a focus on making a better consumer product. But then your question is, hey, like, why would we not bring that to the other like like sexy and exciting parts of healthcare, whatever those are, right? Like, why would we not bring that experience there? And yeah, at the end of the day, like, of course, the patient experience has to matter to somebody. It matters to very few people and entities with power in the healthcare system, but like it should, right? And so having a more optimistic view that says like we should be bringing in better patient experience, I definitely would support that. Again, nobody cares.
A lot of people have tried to do this by like the front door approach, like
right?
Very often, but everyone tries to own the front door. Yeah. We are super happy down here in like plumbing land.
We do not own the front door.
Yeah, we're more like electricity or maybe Wi-Fi. That sounds cool. So we're bringing the Wi-Fi to the healthcare house. We're happy to let someone else own the front door, and further, like we're happy to bring Wi-Fi to a house that has, that was built in the 90s or was built in the 1800s, or I don't know when houses got built, but like everyone trying to say let's build new brick and mortar style approach to healthcare. So you got One Medical literally building brick and mortar, all the way through the whole proliferation of digital health D2C. Like they're all trying to build new clinics. And there's a lot of clinics out there that write prescriptions. So like our task is really actually to bring some digital health innovation via infrastructure back to like offline care. And we're starting to do that. And that's actually kind of the coolest piece of Photon is we have prescribers that are not working in virtual clinics using Photon.
Nice.
And it's at that point, it just becomes an integrations game, like, like the railroad we're talking about. But I do think we're not just saying, hey, we're an alternative to a legacy e-prescribing pipe. Who cares? Like apples to apples, that's not a very interesting value prop. We're saying, hey, we give your patients a better experience. That better experience increases the likelihood that they get their prescription and reduces the phone calls that you get back as a provider. And that is what is selling. And also why, you see customers of ours that are really happy. Like we're making their clinics run more efficiently by just building better infrastructure beneath them.
Yeah.
So. Big infrastructure fans here.
Yeah, we love, especially back-end infrastructure. Like, the more ridiculous, the better. The heavier, the better. But that is interesting too that you're tying into the medication adherence problem. Like, actually pick up your meds.
I think there's a lot of companies that go straight after that, and it's not like that interesting. Like for us, if it's a secondary effect because of a cool product experience, great. But I do see like price transparency, in my view, is one of the biggest reasons why patients don't get medications. It's why in my own life I've been like, oh, not getting that med because I, don't even know what it costs. Like, ignore the whether or not I can afford it question. It's just literally like the feeling of like, shit, is that going to be $5 or 500? Even a basic, antibiotic can sometimes be a 500 versus 5 question for the average patient. And, we see this all the time.
Well, I mean, price transparency is secondarily price. And then price transparency is a secondary part of it. Like, not only can I I can't afford this, but I also have no idea how much it's going to cost up front, and also have no idea where I can get it without, like, I don't know how I'm going to get there. How long is that pharmacy open? Like, whatever, all the things that stop someone from doing it. But I think not being able to afford medications has got to be like one of the top reasons why people don't take their meds or get their meds.
Yeah, I also think we've exhausted all the like quick win, like spammy, simple tech solutions that increase adherence. Like we've tried the spam bots. Like the spam bots work. You can text the shit out of a patient and you're going to increase adherence. But like, are you fundamentally increasing the experience? And are you solving like the underlying problems that are truly preventing adherence? You can solve for forgetfulness and maybe make a small dent in adherence. But I do think helping patients find cheaper medication options. And there's a ton of pharmacies out there, many who we work with, who are really into the notion of just posting a list of prices and letting a patient see what something costs before they send their prescription there. So that's what we think a lot about in terms of like truly solving these problems.
So I like it. Just shout out for our many loyal LinkedIn followers. LinkedIn comments suck. So please, if you want us to actually see your comment and address it, please at one of us. So we have a comment from Matthew Holt that we can actually see because it's on our platform. He wants to know if the Photon can be used to move prescriptions between different pharmacies.
Yeah. Okay. So the way that we think about this is very different than the traditional method where, strictly a prescription lives only at a pharmacy. If you think of a prescription just as a physical object, it's got to be transferred between pharmacies. That's how it works today. In our world, the prescription really lives in the network. So if a patient says, hey, I want this actually at Randall's pharmacy, not CVS, they can just click that. And what we do is we actually cancel the script at one pharmacy and send a net new one with the correct number of fills remaining to the new pharmacy. Those pharmacies don't get a say in this. They don't get to play this weird game where they like refuse to transfer scripts between each other.
It off. Yeah,
and it's on behalf of the provider. So
fuck off.
That's pretty cool because the patient literally owns the prescription. And that's something that we, across the board see that folks want from a clinic perspective. At the end of the day, I think pharmacies actually benefit from this because those two pharmacies are usually calling each other or doing some other kind of like manual data entry situation to move that prescription. So we're actually saving everyone a lot of time in that case.
Yeah, but that's information blocking, right? That is actually like the reason why they haven't created a better system is because they don't want to move prescriptions, right? There is a market, like there's a reason for creating stupid levels of administrative burden and like waste. And it's because you believe somehow that not going to work on making the experience better. Screw that. Screw the patients. Screw the providers. Who cares? But we're just going to make it so that it's really hard to do this stuff. And so there is some like pushing through that information blocking and like bad actors or bad incentives to block information. It's the same thing to me.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a thought experiment of like, imagine if a prescription was just sort of like a orb that followed a patient around wherever they went, and they could just walk into a pharmacy and get their prescription filled with, and it's digital and, secure or whatever. Would the incumbent players have the advantage they have today because of that? And, I'm not going to point fingers. I think, there's lots of advantages.
Point fingers.
Yeah.
So
no, I do think, the world will work differently and patients might find cheaper options or better options or delivery options or mail order options, whatever it is. So that's the way we think about this problem. And it's cool. We run a lot of experiments here at Photon. and they're experiments, but we're very careful, obviously, with the notion of patient data. But we will just say, hey, we're going to offer free delivery from this pharmacy and see what happens. And we see like huge uptick in patients who want to go to that pharmacy. So I do think going back to the industry and saying, look, these are the value props that are converting. These are the value props that bring patients in your doors. I think if we're going to have a supply chain that works well in the next 50 years, we got to get past this like retail world of pharmacy where the Coca-Cola being sold, love Diet Coke, whatever, but like the Coca-Cola being sold in the front of a CVS is the reason CVS's remain open. We've got to get past that, or we're
cigarettes.
Kind of facing, like,
isn't Walgreens still have cigarettes?
Yeah,
maybe
not.
Maybe they all gotten rid of them now. Yes. Sorry, Walgreens. Sorry. I think they've now all gotten rid of it. No, CVS did, but there was like a really long time where they were still selling cigarettes, right? Like,
I think Wags still has cigarettes, and honestly, I'm into that. Yeah. I'm into that vibe. Like, we would sell cigarettes.
Anyway. All right. Okay. You guys. This has been really fun. We have to move on to the primary care crisis in America, which is very important. So, Otto, what is your parting thought that you would like to leave our loyal followers with?
Parting thought. Oh, I feel like I need a rebuttal from the last, was it 2 weeks ago? There's a soundbite of you that's like, those photon guys are crazy. I do think we're a little crazy for the record, but I almost want to.
I'm into it. I'm into it.
But like, yeah, parting thought. We're definitely crazy a little bit, but I do think we're doing something that we care genuinely about, that we're approaching, very seriously. We love to have fun happy hours or whatever at conferences. I think that has done well for us to show that we're different, but we are also extremely serious about changing healthcare.
2 to 3 a.m. That's for sure. Yeah. No,
it's 10 to 1. 10 to 1.
10 to 1, no big deal.
10 to 1, 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. No, but that I got to say, I mean, you guys are doing really interesting work, and I love the approach and the care for the user experience of actual patients who are trying to receive meds and putting some more power back in their hands. It's really cool. Yeah. Nice work.
Yeah. God bless America. Love it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we're transitioning here. This is our transition slide. This is our transition slide to introduce the great Matthew Holt, who is going to be talking with us about something that is dear and near to both of our hearts, which is the dumpster fire that is primary care in America. So, yeah, I feel like I'm going to leave this slide up for a minute, and then we'll do a different one. But like, I don't know. So the problem is, this is the problem about having our other diversity guests on this show, is that we kind of agree with them. Right? Like, we agree with them. Yeah. It's not going to be that fun. Yeah. So, yeah.
It's okay. I apologize for coming on in the first place then. I won't do it again.
Well, no. We're here for it. We just didn't know we wanted someone so famous. That slide up
for absolutely anything, right? So, the world at the moment.
No, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it for later. Yeah.
I mean, what you guys were talking about, railways? So
railways.
The Spanish. We should just all learn Spanish. The Spanish just built a railroad which is nearly the length of nearly the length of Los Angeles to San Francisco, and cost them about 4 billion euros. And so far, the California high-speed rail has cost 25 billion and doesn't even exist anywhere yet.
And there's no railway. Like, the money has gone to only, as far as I can tell, only like paying off some disgruntled like landowners in the Central Valley. Not even that. Sorry, isn't it Palo Alto that's just like, we will never allow there to be a railway here. Like, go to hell. Like, literally, that's like they're just like, no.
Railway going through Palo Alto already. I went on it yesterday.
I know, but they don't want any more. They don't want any faster or louder trains there. Oh my God!
It's not an American entities. They just cancelled the thing in the UK, HS2, which is the railroad going from London to the north. And they've cancelled most of that because it was going to cost them, 35 billion pounds or something they couldn't afford.
Incredible.
They said they couldn't afford. How are the Spanish doing it at like, a quarter of the price?
And meanwhile, in China, they have currently built 700 high-speed railways in the last 5 minutes we've been talking. So we have a problem. Big problem.
And a bunch of buildings that they then knocked down later because it was just a
bunch of buildings have gone up to housing they don't need, knock it down. So that's a problem. Infrastructure. Kat, come on.
Listen, I'm just trying to read these goddamn LinkedIn comments. Like, it's so freaking difficult to find these. This is, I mean, I didn't know it was going to be like this. I didn't know it was going to. When we randomly. When we randomly started the talk show, we didn't know. Okay, yeah. So LinkedIn, is somewhat valuable. Yeah, so like, I'm like doing the thing on the LinkedIn on a Saturday or whatever, and I see Matthew just like railing on Andre, I think it was, some other people just basically like, fuck you, you're not investing in primary care. If we just took four millionaires' philanthropic donations, we could fund the whole, I don't know, I'm making this up, like all the FQHCs in America.
I have a much better place. Can I go back to where this starts in my brain?
Okay, are we still talking about the railroads?
No.
Okay, go.
It's the same problem, right? We're spending way too much money on stuff that is the wrong thing. But so I go back to my general depression about healthcare. You 30 years ago when I got here, I was taught well that we were going to have universal healthcare reform, and then we were going to have, capitated at-risk entities. Lisa's shaking her head. But below that, go back. You read your advisory board's reports from like 1994. It says all this, and then below that,
the HMO,
right, you're gonna have all these tech companies, tech-enabled services, which are going to make all this stuff work, and it's all going to be great, right? Instead, what we got, partly as a consequence of Obamacare, partly as a consequence of just inertia in the system, and a lot because most people in healthcare are actually, work in public utilities, or at least semi-public utilities, because half the money, at least half the fees come from the government, and all the rest of the money comes from the government, right? Instead of that, what we've got is this whole series of massive organizations, but predominantly non-profit organizations, which have made a fortune in the last decades and stuck it all in their hedge funds, on the bank, right? And now run hedge funds, literally hedge funds in the case of some of them. So Ascension runs a hedge fund. They got, depending who you believe, somewhere between 18 billion and 40 billion in their hedge fund. But even teeny guys, right? So I was looking at a company called a hospital system in New Jersey called RWJ, which is Barnabas. And that's like a 20 hospital system, 5 billion in revenue, more than 2.5 billion in investments. And then I went and looked at their 990, a little system like that, not a big player in the global scheme of things. How many people in their 990 make more than $1 million?
I'm impressed they actually put it on the 990 and didn't have them work for another company.
They have to, and they hope no one reads it. And no one does read it.
It is the law. It is the law.
How many?
More than 6 people.
32 people. Somewhere in that. So the 30, I don't know who the 31st person, the 32nd is, but they must be doing really important stuff to be paid $1 million a year. It's more than the payroll of the open days by a long way.
Wow.
It's probably more than the payroll of probably more than the payroll of the LA.
It's more than my payroll.
Yeah, incredible.
No, but what I'm saying is that, so you have, on the one hand, right, these organizations which are professing to be the health system serving the community, yada, 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 in all their mission statements, with all their non-profit boards and worthy people. They're paying a lot of money to their management teams down the wazoo. You can go look at any one of these. The 990s are stuffed with people, and if they're not making $1 million, they're making 650,000. They're making, way down those management teams. The CEOs are all making 2 to 10 million, in some cases more, but it also goes down. It's like the scene with Michael Douglas in Wall Street criticizing how much all the vice presidents make at whatever that company was in the 80s. It's the same thing, right? So that's all going on. Meanwhile, these are the same organizations that appear in the news frequently for sending debt collectors onto their incredibly poor patients who owe them, thousands, sometimes hundreds of dollars, and also they make all their money not by doing primary care, but by running their running services, right? Running inpatient, high-intensity services, cardiology, neurology, orthopedics, all the rest of it. And they've spent the last decade growing. And I used to think that, this will be sorted out by capitation and value-based care, but it just hasn't happened. They spent the last decades growing by buying primary care doctors, running their practices at a loss and capturing all the referrals, right? And so I was going this, and I've been looking at this for a while. And then the real crowning thing that pissed me off the most, the sort of, cherry on top of the sundae, was that you think, why do they have all this money in reserves? Why does a small health system have, 2 billion plus sitting in the stock market or sitting in cash? Why? Well, presumably it's there for a rainy day, right? When something bad happens, they don't have to, they have money and they can sustain themselves to run their mission. Well, actually, we had a rainy day starting in March 2020. Inpatient stuff got shut down, right? COVID. They all started losing massive amounts of money.
No, hang on now. We need a bailout. I already hear a bailout coming. Bail us out. It's a crisis.
It happened.
Bail me
CARES
out.
Act, right? Now, the only two organizations I have respect for are HCA and Kaiser, who were given bailout money and gave it back because they went, we really don't need it. But, common spirit took nearly $1 billion. I mean, hundreds of millions went to these individual systems. So I look at it and go, okay, so if you add up, and I haven't done this scientifically, but I know Ascension has got like 40 billion, UPMC has got 12, Kaiser's got a ton, but that's a health plan too. If you add up the non-profit health plans, you have probably an Apple or Google-sized cash mountain sitting out there. You probably have $200 to $300 billion sitting out there on the balance sheets of every non-profit hospital in America. And if you chuck in the health plans, it's probably way more. I mean, I haven't scientifically done it. But if a little one, like this one in New Jersey, has got $2.5 billion, and the one that a company called Accenture, which I've never heard of in Wisconsin, has gotten more than $1 billion in its reserves, I guarantee you there's hundreds of, there's more than 100 billion out there. So then I thought, okay, what if you started from scratch, and probably this is where you agree with me, what would you do? You would give everybody primary care to start with. You make sure that everyone, if you look at the people who actually have been doing stuff and moving the needle on, controlling hypertension and managing diabetes, it's all people with a primary care approach, which does intensive work, spend a lot more money on primary care than on specialty care for the people who are sick, who have diabetes and heart disease and COPD and all that stuff. You look at and you can go across the board, all the organizations that are doing that. There was a great talk from a guy. I'll have to find the link in a second. I just saw yesterday.
We're not so big on sources here. Don't worry about it. This is not your talk.
Anyway, I assure you there are people out there doing it. There was somebody who had an inner city medical group with predominantly African American population, where they were at 90% of control for hypertension. The best in the state of California is, of course, Kaiser. They're at 70%. The average is below 40%. So we can do this stuff if you run it. We know how to do it properly, but we don't spend any money on it. And I went and looked at how, and I asked ChatGPT and Bard. ChatGPT was useless. Bard was very helpful. How much do we spend on FQHCs, right? Which are basically primary care for poor people. And the answer is $38 billion. So if my guess is that you have 200 plus billion in these reserves sitting there not doing anything, while being traded for, buying NVIDIA stock and God knows what they're doing with it, and it costs $38 billion a year to run the FQHCs, presumably we could take that, you could add another $38 billion a year for 5 years just by confiscating all the reserves and the hedge funds of the rich systems, or all the systems. So, and they don't practically need it.
So that's actually like very similar to, in fact, your Spanish analogy regarding the trains is actually very accurate here, because as you know, there are different healthcare financing and delivery systems in different countries. And one of them that's really relevant is the Spanish system, which is more or less FQHCs in different regions that they fund, that like primary care happens through health centers that are geographically assigned. So if you live in a particular region, you're assigned to a health center or a system of health centers that is like a primary care, like an FQHC, community health center type of system. And of course, Kat, don't worry, there is room for private insurance and private coverage, but there's a baseline of primary care services that everybody can access. And I have to agree, but you knew I was going to say that because I am obviously just a few steps away from the old country communist forebears of my family.
No. So another thing. So you both know my BFF, Chris Klump, right? I'm going to butcher this whole statement, but I've heard him say it twice now. He went to some investor think tanky thing, right, where they all sat around and were smart, and they probably had fruit salad with a lot of berries in it, right? Because it's rich people. But they had an assignment during. Right. So they were but they were using their big old brains. And it was interesting. He said that their assignment was to design from scratch the healthcare system for the US, right? So no preconceptions, what would you do if you could come in straight up and build it from the ground up? And most of them came up with single payer, which in a move should not surprise Lisa Berry. And then very, very, very strong primary care, right? More access, funded in rural communities and all that. So even these rich people who love making money came up with single payer and stronger primary care. So but I don't know, what's the solution, right? We can't just make it new. Can't make it new.
Well, I mean, so
the IRS can do whatever they want. The IRS can do whatever they want about all that money that is sitting in the hedge funds or balance sheets of nonprofit organizations. Nonprofit is a tax status, and that is meant to be overseen by the IRS. Please don't at me. I also run a nonprofit organization, but still, the reality is nonprofit is a tax status. No billions.
I don't have any billions in my nonprofit's bank account. You can see my 990. It says mostly that I don't get paid, but I pay in. It's a kind of a different dynamic. We don't have an investment fund over here. It's different.
Yeah,
Congress and the IRS can do whatever they want to do here. They totally have the ability to do something about this.
So look,
just to be clear.
Look, let's be real. This is America, and regulatory capture. You will see no finer example than the AHA and every single hospital and every single congressional district making sure that there is no such thing as a real assault on their balance sheet, and if things go in the least wrong, they have all these employees and they're very important for the local economy and yada yada. And changing that is unbelievably difficult in America. Having said that, I'm encouraged by the use of the eagle. And where is the picture, Kat, of you in the Lady Liberty dress? There's this whole thing about revolutions we've heard about, and if something at some point change, at some point it'll have to change.
I don't know.
And we are.
I gotta find that.
Yes, I mean the thing is, I found it, by the way. The guy is. I will put it in the notes. Bob Matthews from a company called Medisync, which runs a bunch of primary care groups. He's the one who had a great lecture about how to use essentially intelligent machines telling people which drugs the people with hypertension should be on and how they should be treated, and helping them match the guidelines. If you actually do that, you have a much better chance of it actually working. A lot of it's sort of proper patient outreach and yada yada yada. There's a bunch of stuff you have to do. It's not easy, but you can do it, and we have lamentably failed to do it because more than half the people in this country don't have access to a primary care doctor. And in fact, I remember Marcus Osborne from Walmart. I had him at Health 2.0 a long time ago. He said the reason Walmart got into this is that they would ask their people coming in the door, they surveyed Walmart shoppers, right? How many of you got a primary care doctor? And about 60% of them said they had one. 40% said they didn't have one, and 60% said they did. Then they asked the 60% what the name of their primary care doctor, and half of them didn't know it. So not much of a relationship there. So they went at that point, well, hang on, perhaps we should be investing in primary care. And that's why, they and Walgreens, God love them, and CVS, are now in the primary care business because they think there's an opportunity because the current incumbents have done it poorly. And why would the current incumbents bother? Because all they're interested in is getting the expensive people into their facilities to do expensive stuff to them in order to generate money, which then ends up in their hedge fund.
Love that. Love the hedge fund.
This is so screwed up, and we're spending so much more than anybody else. We do need hospital systems. We do need intensive inpatient stuff. We need to figure out how to fix cancer. We need to pay less for all the stuff we're doing. We're spending way, way too much in terms of when we're paying 10 times what everybody else in the world is paying for drugs. Got to wonder why we're doing that. But free market. Free market. There isn't one, right? There's price fixing and price setting. Every other country does price setting, and we do price fixing by the you know, the people who make Ozempic and in Wegovy, and what's the other one? Mounjaro.
Yeah, yeah, all those. True.
Another one of Pat's favorite topics we do not have time to discuss today.
We do not have time for me to rant about the new opioid epidemic, which is weight loss drugs.
We shouldn't be putting up with this, right? And expecting a free market approach to get it right means that, you know, you're relying on people who haven't figured it out for years, like employers and members of.
So here's my thing. Here's my ranting. So the healthcare is not the free market, right? I know that, and I know like I have a great time talking about. It's a great thing for me to yell and dress up as a Statue of Liberty, but like it's a regulated market. Our primary payer is the freaking federal government, right? So like it's not the free market. I get that, and it like totally sucks. Otto says in our comments he wants to dump the tea in the harbor. This guy, we should have
agree.
That.
Also, he wants to cosplay as an Indian, Native American.
We have a fellow, Lisa, one of your fellow communists in our LinkedIn comments who actually tagged us so you can see it. He says nonprofit organizations have some of the very worst customer service experience in primary care. The worst part is care coordination and the referral out of network. Medicare moved the cost curve exclusively. And he says, "High five, Lisa. I am also a communist." But you're actually a democratic socialist or something. So I don't know.
I'm none of the above. I'm none of the above. I'm obviously a totally committed capitalist. Look at my life. I live in Marin County. There's no room for me in this world.
Just like Matthew.
My point. No, just like Matthew. We are actually neighbors, which we learned recently, which is amazing. We could be taking this from the same place. Sometime in the future, we'll make that happen. No, what I would say is like, the problem is not that we pay so much and there's so much regulatory capture. It is also a problem. The problem for me is that we pay way more than any comparable country. We pay more per capita, more overall, more everything. And we don't have universal health care. We don't have primary care for all. And we have terrible in the trash health outcomes. So if we're going to pay so much.
We have HSA accounts, Lisa.
Care for all. We do have HSA accounts.
No one else has it. No one else has that.
Funded HSA. No one else has that. But that's the thing. It's like the point is we're already paying so much across all aspects of society for healthcare. We're paying enough that we could get primary care for all. And so, Matthew, I fully agree. We pay more than enough. We should be getting that. I think the other thing as well, I mean, I don't know if like how, accurate this is or whatever, but my older brother is in biotech. And obviously anything he says, I'm like, oh my God, it's so smart, because he's my older brother. And he was like, the only thing I'm interested in right now, only thing I'm impressed by is Mark Cuban cost plus drugs. Like the fact that they can deliver, as they should, those generic drugs for literally pennies on the dollar compared to whatever else. And I know they're not the only one in the space now. There's other people doing that work too. But like the scale and the scope and how broad it is, and how much attention it's gotten, and how critical the incredible savings they're providing, we can do more of that. And we can provide primary care for a tiny fraction of the cost that we're providing it now and to more people. So I think we should do it. Let's do it. Come on. Who's with me? Let's go.
No, I'm absolutely with you. I don't know how we get, I'm trying to connect the fact there's this obvious source of money, right? That's sitting there being managed by hedge fund guys. Literally, right. If you look, I think the former CEO of Ascension, right, Tassigny, actually moved over to the hedge fund and is paying himself like $12 million a year to manage the investment. I mean, good luck to him. Incredible. No one's stopping him. And we know that people can make a lot of money managing money, especially if you're like the guy got found guilty yesterday and you steal it. I just read the book about him and it was like bizarre.
SBF. Yep.
But I mean, good luck to them all doing it. But at some point, you've got to say, because particularly this money, because as you just said, it's a public, it's half the money comes from the government. At least 50% is a public utility. Will we put up with pure government employees, the 32nd one in an organization making $1 million a year? Maybe I haven't looked at the San Francisco City Council. Maybe there are 32 people making $1 million a year.
They probably are. But
that shouldn't be, right?
No. Kat, take us home. We're almost at the top. You can do it.
Okay, all right. So I think the call to action is if you are a rich person, you should donate your money to our primary care FQHC network. God bless America. Listen, someone's got to do it. It might as well be you, rich person. We know who you are. Thank you, Matthew. What you have get to do one parting thought before we bail on this.
I have to think in part. My part's going back to my little visit to NVIDIA, who are now incredibly rich people. Quite ironic, by the way, the CEO of the company is most famous for saying, I went there. I went down there and they showed me all their stuff, and they're reproducing humans in real. They're reproducing everything in the Simulverse, and it looks better there. So I think we'll all go and join in. I prefer the person they had who was a fake human presenting to me than the actual guy they had. And I'm waiting till they just duplicate.
This is a bad close. This is a
bring it home, Matthew. You can do it. Bring it home. No, give us a takeaway.
That was the takeaway. I want to be similar.
You want to. Okay. All right. Thank you to our loyal followers for watching the show. Thank you to Otto and Matthew. And if you are a rich person, you should save America's primary care system. Rural health is important. All health is important. God bless America. Talk to you all next week.
Bye, everyone.